Thank you, everyone, and thank you in particular, Jim and Violet. You have me in tears. I don't know if I can. I tried to do something unusual because Barbara really does not want me to be a comedian and entertain tonight. She doesn't want me to be a wise guy, let's call it. And so I'm supposed to discipline myself and be honored as I really am deeply. I really want, in serious, first to thank everyone as everyone would in my position. And, you know, I've heard a lot of people do this, and I don't want to just sound like everyone else has done this, but I'm not quite sure what else to say. I'm hugely moved by this. I had no clue this was coming, and it's meant so much to me as I've pondered life since you called, Jim, and told me of this award. And part of this is, of course, not mine. I mean, there are so many people in my life that have brought about whatever it is that we're honoring. It really isn't me. I know it isn't me. One of the powers, I think my partner Paul has always pointed out, he doesn't know anyone that's as willing to be openly defective as I am. But there's something about that invites partnership. There's something wonderful about being helpless and hopeless, which I always felt when I tried to help someone with a diagnosis, a mental illness diagnosis. I never thought I knew what I was supposed to do to get someone well. That's from day one in residency. But I knew they couldn't wait for me to learn. If I have a patient, as we called it then affectionately, and pardon me if I slip into patient language and not consumer or member language, but I mean it in the deep, loving sense that it meant then. I had to help this person, and no one had given me any lessons that I could remember. Had I missed class? Had I not read something? Near as I could tell, all I knew was how to label somebody more or less accurately, but not what do you do. So I remember so clearly my first day saying, well, she can't wait for me to learn how to do this correctly. I'll just have to do this. And so I introduced myself as warmly as I could, that I thought was appropriate, listened, we chatted. She told me things that were totally incorrect about her diagnosis, totally contrary to everything that was in the chart. Her schizophrenia diagnosis, because I didn't know, maybe people have schizophrenia and it goes away and then they speak fine, you know, they're fine except they had it, maybe they don't. Anyway, I assumed the experts know she has schizophrenia. She kept saying, you know, I'm an alcoholic, that's it, just let me go to a meeting. And of course that was heresy in 1962. But I thought, someone has to tell her that she has to face her illness. How is she ever going to get well if she doesn't face that she has schizophrenia? So I brought her husband in. I was going to write a book, The 10 Ways I Almost Lost My Residency. Back then, psychoanalysis and Freud were coming out of the walls and ceiling. So to contaminate treatment by bringing in a family member was really heresy, and I was called on the carpet for it. So I brought him down and I said, in a sense, could you help me tell her that she has schizophrenia because I want to get her well? Of course, I didn't say it like that. And she said, you know, it's really a shame about my wife's drinking problem. And she always gets that way eventually. And she said, just please, can't I go to a meeting? Well, don't ask me why, but I granted her a pass that her husband would take her to an AA meeting. She went to the AA meeting, came back. I saw her. She was incredibly transformed. I mean, one meeting. Well, she said, oh, I just was so good. Thank you. You have no idea how grateful I am to you. I've been wanting to do this for so long, and I've been stuck in the hospital here for so many months. And I got the fellowship I needed, and I don't know that much about it, but I was delighted for her. There was no sign of any psychosis. Never was in my experience with her, though I trusted the chart. And she left in complete denial of her schizophrenia, saying, you know, Doc, a lot of us alcoholics get pretty crazy at times. You should look into that. Well, because I didn't know how to do what I needed to do, I took it upon myself when anybody was getting discharged to say, could you just do me a favor off the record? Please tell me straight. What did I do, if anything, to help you? Well, I knew what I had done. I had handled the projection of the anger from the this and the that and the depressive. I knew all that I had done for her. But she didn't. She didn't know I'd done any of that for her. She said, after a long pause, I thought she was going to come up with nothing, which maybe would have been the answer. She said, I could tell you cared about me, and you listened to me. You're the first person that listened to me. That was it. That's what she claimed I did for her. Months of inpatient work. And that's what I did for her. Well, I kept hearing that from the experts I was consulting with, namely the patients, the consumers. And it started to make me wonder about what is this about? It can't be about what I've been taught. I don't want to spend any more time on that because that wasn't my plan. My plan was to honor you, to honor the people that deserve this award, namely, because the award really is for Project Transition. Assuming some of you know, or maybe many of you know of it, we're just an incredibly committed group, starting in 1979, or is it 80, or is it 81 or 2, depending on who you ask. It evolved. It took on a life of its own, became the fulfillment of a shared vision between Paul Kiesling and myself for creating a community. At one point, I come up with phrases, I don't like it now, but I call it a community of injured persons. That was the idea. And the commitment of this was, when we look back, what in the world was it we were invested in? It was community. In other words, we would all work together. What I would say is, you can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. I can't do it alone, but together we can do it. That would be the kind of sloganism that we would indulge. So what I was saying was that as a community working together, I'm not going to give recovery to you. I will give you anything I can give you that I possess, that I can. But maybe you help you, and you help you, and you help me, and that's what's going to happen. And your life will become richer and better. It wasn't a treatment model, I don't know what to call it exactly, but it was a collective. It was an idea that I mentioned earlier. I am insufficient to help you, but I know how to get others to help me help you. One of my critical professors once said, Loren is an awesome leader because he's so helpless, his people can't stand to have him fail. So they pitch in just to help him be successful. And I've always been haunted by that, that's both a compliment and not so. But I think it's accurate. So I want to say Project Transition, this is an award for Project Transition. We've been at it for a long time, evolved through many, many phases, and we don't know how to spell any medicine any differently than any other program, and we haven't invented a new group or training. We like to think we do everything we could imagine could help. This was from the beginning. And of course, part of that was part of my gratitude for this was my relationship with NAMI. Right around that time, I had this idea. And this group came up and said, would you speak? And I always said yes. I felt like it was part of my mission was to speak there, as I'm doing right now. And I could not do that. And so I would. And I thought I had a message, which looking back, you'd have to say, ho-hum, that's what we all believe. But it wasn't so then. NAMI had come up with an important construct. Mental illness is a brain disease. Revolutionized where is guilt and responsibility now that we call it that. And it changed completely the way certain people who believe that started to relate to this topic. Now, at that time, hospitalizations were the main game. And most of them, probably including the ones I ran, although I thought they were state-of-the-art and awesome and all that, we were probably pretty awful. But we were it. And NAMI meetings, we would debate which hospital took worse care of our loved ones. This hospital or this hospital? Oh, really? That one? We were there, and they were there for me, and that one was horrible, they were there for me. And my message was, sounds so naive, it's what happens between hospitalizations that matter, not what happens in the hospital. This is what I thought my calling was. Needless to say, NAMI has way outstripped any such notion as that. Gone way beyond the idea. And of course the recovery vision fitting right in with that. The first was really about project transition, and I'm going to boil it down to one distinguishing element. One. Of course we do everything, but what's the one distinguishing feature? It's a vow that we created years ago. Paul was driving a car, or a couple stepped in the car. I was in the back seat. Paul said, I got a great idea, Loren. By the way, we had no business plan. We had no this plan, that plan. We had nothing but each other. We didn't know how to bill. We didn't know how to collect. They had me speak at business schools about how to do everything wrong, which I gladly do. It's very comical. Well, that's what we were doing. And Paul said, we should write stuff down, like, what are our beliefs? What do we believe? Oh, we believe in relationships. We believe in community. We believe in... I said, that's a great idea. One knee-jerk. That's a great idea. The other knee-jerk, I'm in the back seat. I felt queasy and ill in my stomach. I had no idea what bothered me about his request. It sounds so perfect. Let's have a committee of believers, of course. What do we believe? And I said, Paul, I got to get this off my stomach, off my chest. I want to insist that there is one unnegotiable statement at the start of the belief list. And that is, never give up on anyone. Never give up on anyone. And then the committee can fill in all the other wonderful things that we stand for. But that one thing is not an intention. It's not like, why don't we try to hang in there and never give up? When that occurs, project transition is in spiritual trouble. When we're trying. A vow is non-negotiable. A vow is absolute. Never give up on anyone means just what it says as a vow. It is perfection. It is 100%. And it's us humans, of course, that fail to attain 100%. But that doesn't mean the vow changes to try. That is the one feature, when I look back over almost 35 years of experience now, small, larger, small, whatever we've been, that is the one statement. Never take no for an answer. I was curious in the college story. That was our sub-motto. Never give up on anyone means you never take no for an answer. Oh, you can't do that because so-and-so can't do that. So I want to leave you with those comments, and I'm glad I had made it in 10 minutes. With the help of Mia and the extra 5, and your tolerance with my...
I think Loren was a little inaccurate when he said I called him once. I called him 3 times, about the 10 minutes. But one of the things I want you to understand is the importance of his message, and he is a wonderful storyteller. He had to fight many, many battles to make it successfully out of graduate school, because in reality, the freedom of speech and freedom of thought was not something treasured. And when you hear about John McDermott and his family writing letter after letter and having those letters unanswered, and then you talk and you meet someone who actually said, let's bring family members in, let's listen to the patient. This is why we celebrate your accomplishments, and we're so glad to know you and so glad to have you as a NAMI family member. So let's give Loren a wonderful round of applause. I want to tell you one other thing. This wasn't practice, but I outside I saw him and I said hello, and he had his arm around a very attractive young woman, and I said, how come you're always with the most attractive women? And she said to me, I'll tell you why. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be alive today. He made it possible for me to work through my illness and to make it. And so I can't think of a better tribute. So thank you so much for your contributions.